जय प्रभुपादा 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 जय प्रभुपादा विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक आचार्य शत्र शत श्रीमद अभचरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की समवेत भक्त वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 15, description of the kingdom of God, text 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyotama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtiki. Dharatayor nivivishur misatora prishtva Dvaratvayor nivivishur misatora prishtva Purva yatha purat vajra kapatikaya Sarvatra te vishamaya munaya swadrishtva Ye sancharanti abhihata vigata vishankha Dharatayor nivivishur misatora prishtva Purva yatha purato vajra kapatikaya Sarvatra te vishamaya munaya swadrishta Ye sancharanti avihata vigata vishanka
Varayito सर्वत्र ते अभिशमया मुनयो स्वदृष्ट्या ये संचरन्ति अभिहता विगता विशङ्कः
Word to word meaning, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Dwari, in the door. Etayo, both doorkeepers. Nivivishu, entered. Mishato, while seeing. Aprishtva, without asking. Purva, as before. Yatha, as. Purata, made of gold. Vajra, and diamond. Kapatika, the doors. Ya, which. Sarvatra, everywhere. They, Abhishamaya, without any sense of discrimination. Munayaha, the great sages. Swadrishta, out of their own will. Ye, who. Sancharanti, mob. Abhihata, without being checked. Bigata, without. Abhishanka, doubt. Translation: the great sages headed by Sanaka had opened doors everywhere. They had no idea of ours and theirs. With open minds, they entered the seventh door out of their own will, just as they had passed through the six other doors, which were made of gold and diamonds. Please repeat after me. The great sages, headed by Sanaka, had opened doors everywhere. They had no idea of ours and theirs. With open minds, they entered the seventh door out of their own will, just as they had passed through the six other doors, which were made of gold and diamonds. Purport: the great sages, namely Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandan and Sanat Kumar, although very old in years, maintained themselves eternally as small children. They were not at all duplicitous, and they entered the doors exactly as little children enter places without any idea of what it is to trespass. That is a child's nature. A child can enter any place and no one checks him. Indeed, a child is generally welcome in his attempts to go places. But if it is so happens that a child is checked from entering a door, he naturally becomes very sorry and angry. That is the nature of a child. In this case, the same thing happened. The childlike saintly personalities entered all the six doors of the palace, and no one checked them. Therefore, when they attempted to enter the seventh door and were forbidden by the doorman, who checked them with their sticks, they naturally became very angry and sorrowful. An ordinary child would cry, but because these were not ordinary children, they immediately made preparations to punish the doorman. For the doorman had committed a great offense. Even to this day, a saintly person is never checked from entering anyone's door in India. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Sarasati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yesterday we were discussing how four Kumaras they were stopped by two doormen of Vaikuntha planet, Jai and Vijay, while entering into the seventh gate of Vaikuntha planet. So Prabhupada then explained in the purport that they, because they look like a child, or they are like child, and no one stopped them on those 6 gates. Therefore, they thought on 7th gate also no one will stop them. So they were quite innocent. And in this verse is saying, these 4 Kumaras, they never had idea of ours and theirs. So they thought everything is ours. And Prabhupada therefore explained the innocent babies, no one stops them. Even if there is some emergency meeting goes on, a small baby enters into that room, no one will stop because they are so innocent, and they don't have this idea, ours and theirs. So 4 Kumaras, here their address, although they were very old in years, by age, but they maintained themselves, as small children, And if you see Sanat, Sanatan, Sanandan, Sanat Kumar, Sanat means eternal youth. So these 4 brothers, they eternally they are youth. They never becomes old, just like Supreme Personality of Godhead. He never becomes old. So they, therefore they never had this, idea in their mind that ours and theirs. They are so innocent. But they kept themselves like as a small children, Prabhupada is saying. But actually they are actually mature. They are aged. So therefore they don't have this concept of their life. So similarly, if we develop this concept that nothing is ours and theirs, Rishabdev says in Bhagavatam, Janasya mohayam aham mameti pumsham istriya mithuni bhavam etat tayor mitha abhipadyat hridaya granthi mahur atha griha kshetra satapta vittir janasya mohayam aham mameti. So exactly the same thing, everyone in this material world, they have only this concept of their life, I and mine. This is ours, this is theirs, I and mine. So everything in this material world is centered around this concept, I and mine. And Rishabdev says, this concept, from where does this concept comes? This concept comes from the attraction between male and female. So then I and mine, but these 4 Kumaras, they were so innocent. They never had any material desire. That's why they never had this concept I and mine. That's why they're saying, nothing is yours, nothing is ours. And they're considering, that Jai Vijay, you are considering this is your dham. And therefore we are outsider, we can't enter into your dham. So you are thinking this is your place and we are not qualified to enter into your place. So therefore they curse Jay and Vijay because you don't have qualification to stay in Vaikuntha planets. In Vaikuntha no one can maintain this concept I and mine. So the concept of I and my is here in this material world. So since you have this mentality I and mine, Prabhupada says, in this material world, everyone now considering I am mine. Every country they put border. Without visa you can't enter. Is that it? So this is my country, this is your country, this is my border, this is your border. This is my land. But Ishopanishad says, Ishavasam idam sarvam jatkincham jagatyam jagat. Whatever we are seeing, animate and inanimate, para prakriti and apara prakriti, everything belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. And now someone has, occupied a place, a land or a country and they put border and they are saying, no, this is mine. You can't enter. But everything belongs to Krishna. Isn't it? Like Prabhupada, he told a story of a stolen property. Prabhupada says, these Americans, they killed red Indians, the native people, and after killing, they almost destroyed everyone and they put the boundary, this is our country. So Prabhupada said, this is called a stolen property. And he gave the example, a group of thieves. So, Shri Radha Gopinath ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Gauranitai ki. So he gave the example, there was a group of thieves. And they used to steal in different houses in the villages. So once, a group of thieves, they had stolen a lot of money, lot of, paraphernalia, everything from the houses of the villagers. So after stealing, now they kind of, they gathered all the stolen items. And after that, when the four or five thieves, now they sat down, they said, we have to divide honestly. Prabhupada gave this example. You have stolen dishonestly, now you are dividing honestly. So Prabhupada said, this is called a stolen property, So now they don't have this type of concept, because they maintain themselves very small. Just like, we have the example of Hanuman and Surasa. So Hanuman and Surasa's example is, Hanuman and Surasa, and Hanuman was crossing the ocean. Surasa, that snake, demoness, she got the benediction from Brahma that no one can cross the ocean without entering her mouth. So she opened her mouth. But Hanuman enlarged his body. She also enlarged one step, Hanuman also one step, This way there is competition going on. But suddenly Hanuman became very small, very tiny. And she opened her mouth and Hanuman entered into her mouth and came out. So it's saying, these four Kumaras, they maintain themselves eternally as small children. So if you maintain ourselves very small, not big devotee, small devotee, then we can easily cross this material ocean, So, like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, every time he was maintaining, he was, considering himself very small. Many people used to come to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They wanted to have, argument to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, scriptural discussion. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to say, Guru more murkha dekhi karilo shasan. My spiritual master found me, I am a fool. Therefore, I don't have any right to discuss Vedantas. That's why I am chanting simply Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So these four Kumaras, they are called Uddharetas, four Kumaras. It comes in this third canto. It says, Sanaka cha sanandam cha sanatanam matham bhavu sanat kumara cha munin nishkriyan uddharetasha. These four Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan and Sanat Kumar, they were lifelong celebrates. So if we see the background of the creation of four Kumaras, Brahma, when he was created, he got the responsibility from Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu to fulfill this world with progeny. So Brahma, therefore, he first created 4 Kumaras. So 4 Kumaras, and then Brahma told them, you have to fulfill this world with progeny, population. But these 4 Kumaras, they refused. They disobeyed the instruction of their father. And Brahma became extremely unhappy. So much so that, out of Brahma's anger, Rudra came out. Because he got very angry with 4 Kumaras. But you see here, these 4 Kumaras, they disobeyed Brahma's instruction. So Prabhupada wrote actually, a few chapters before, Prabhupada wrote that from materialistic point of view, the 4 sages, disobedience, was, definitely abominable. But Prabhupada says, but because such disobedience was for a higher purpose, for the sake of Lord. That's why this type of disobedience is justified. So sometimes, we may disobey the instruction of our parents, superiors, even gurus, if that is for the higher purpose. So Prabhupada says this type of disobedience is justified. So Brahma, although apparently he got angry, he was upset with 4 Kumaras. But now you see, if you read this section, what is Brahma doing? Brahma is discussing with demigods. And what is the discussion? That my 4 sons, they went to spiritual world, they came back, and now they told me the description, what they saw in Vaikuntha planets. So Brahma is narrating those descriptions to the demigods. So apparently Brahma got angry, but now Brahma is so happy with his 4 sons. So similarly, we can relate to it, when the children's, they comes to Krishna consciousness, sometimes parents, they may not be happy. In the beginning, they may not be happy, they may get angry, I want you should create population. But if we, remain strict, and if we disobey their instruction for the sake of Krishna, then eventually they will become very happy. And eventually they will become happy. And they will feel proud. Like when Brahma is, discussing with demigods, what 4 Kumaras saw in the spiritual world is proud moment for Brahma. Isn't it? So, our parents, our relatives, our friends will also feel proud if we, remain in Krishna consciousness. So, in the beginning, they may not be happy, they may not appreciate, but eventually they will appreciate. So, therefore, these 4 Kumaras, they are very, great exalted Vaishnavas. Sambhur Narada Sambhu Kumara Kapila Manu. So, they are, these 4 Kumaras, 1 out of 12 Mahajanas. So, and they never had this concept of, I and mine. Prabhupada spoke in the purport mainly about the children. So the child is, can enter any place, no one can check them, they are, no trespassing for the children, they are so innocent, because no one can brainwash the children, so they are very innocent. So, Prabhupada actually made this statement, why there is no peace in this world nowadays, because people are killing two peaceful citizens. One is children, one is cows. Prabhupada says cows and children are very peaceful, very innocent. And in a society where they are killing every day cows in the slaughterhouses and killing children, innocent babies in the womb of mother. So there never can be peacefulness. Because they are innocent, they are sinless, these people. Like, children are always attractive, especially, when you see the Krishna conscious children. Like, we have the example of Yamaraj, in Bhagavatam it comes, Suyagga's wife. Yamaraj came, in the form of a little boy. That's what Hiranyakashipu, he was narrating this story to his mother and sister-in-law. When Hiranyaksha was, killed by Lord Varahadeva. In order to pacify them, he narrated this story. How Suyagga's wife, King Suyagga, Suyagga, he was a king and he left his body, and his queens, they were extremely attached to the body of Suyagga. And they are so attached, they were not allowing his body to take for the cremation. They said, we want to keep the dead body of our husband. So that time Yamaraj came in the form of a very beautiful little boy. And then Yamaraj started to give instructions to the wives of Suyaggas, and they got extremely pleased by seeing. See, at that time so many great sages were there. They also tried to pacify the wives of Suyaggas, but they could not. But when they heard from this little boy, and they are very extremely happy, they convinced, yes, you can take the body of our husband. So the special children now, and they are in Krishna consciousness, they preaches, everyone get attracted by them. And that's what Prabhupada says, we even like Bamandev. See, Bamandev's example. He was so cute, so beautiful when Bamandev came in the form of a dwarf man. And even the demons, he came to the family of demons, Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was a devotee, but others, everyone, they were demon. Demons were attracted by seeing Bamandev. That's why Bamandev came in the form of a little boy. Even Bali Maharaj's sister, Ratanamala, she thought, I wish I could have a son like him. And when Bali Maharaj, he captured, Bamandeva, he captured Bali Maharaj all the wealth with his 3 steps. And Ratnamala says, if I had a son like him, I would kill him by giving poison. So that's why that Ratnamala became Putana in Dapar Yuga. Krishna fulfilled her both desires. She wanted to have a son like Bamanadeva, and she wanted to kill that son. So Putana, the Krishna accepted Putana as his mother. Leve gatim dhatrimuchitam tata anyad. Kangba dayalu sharanang brajema. So Putana accepted her as his mother. At the same time, she tried to kill Krishna. So even these demons, they get attracted by seeing innocent boys, innocent children. So that's why Bamandev came in the form of a little boy. Like, Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, their character is so attractive, We have example of other great devotees, who were engaged in unalloyed devotional service of Lord. But when we especially listen, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, it gives a different feeling to us. The little boy, 4-year-old boy, one is 5-year-old boy, and went through so much struggle, austerity, just to get the favor of Krishna. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, every single day in Jagannath Puri, he used to listen Srimad Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit, every single day. But especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to listen the episode of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. Only that 2 episodes. And he used to tell Gadadhar Pandit, please, again and again, please, repeatedly tell me the story of Prahlad and Dhruva. So he says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at least he heard the story of Prahlad and Dhruva Maharaj 100 times. Because the characters of, children are very attractive, We get inspiration by seeing, these children, they are practicing Krishna consciousness. And in advances, we are not doing that much. What they are doing in their, childhood, Like, there's a devotee, his name was Gopal. During Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, he was a disciple of Bakreshwar Pandit. Bakreshwar Pandit, who used to dance for 72 hours. So he was a disciple, and once, there was a devotee, there are 2 versions of this. There was a devotee in Jagannath Puri, and he, while going to the toilet, he held his tongue this way, because his tongue was not stopping. His tongue was constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord. But he is going to, a inauspicious place or in a dirty place. So therefore he was stopping his tongue not to chant holy name of the Lord. So this little boy, Gopal, he saw he is holding his tongue with teeth. And he's saying, why are you holding your tongue with teeth? He says, my tongue isn't stopping. Tongue wants to chant, but I am going to toilet. Then he says, Niyamita Smarana Nakala. And this boy says, and there is another version that one day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to toilet. And this boy saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is holding his tongue with teeth. He says, why are you holding your tongue with teeth? He says, same thing. So then this little boy, very little boy, and then Gopal says, what will you do at the time of death? At the time of death, you have to first stool urine on the bed. And you have to remember Krishna at the time of death. And Mahaprabhu, wow, I learned a very good lesson from it. From today, you are Guru. So his name became Gopal Guru. He became very famous later on, So when we see, the children, they are in Krishna consciousness, it gives a lot of inspiration to us. Like Prabhupada was in Madras, Chennai, they had a program in Chennai governor's house. So that Malati Mataji's daughter, Swarasati, was there, traveling with Prabhupada. So in Madras governor house, Prabhupada, she had Prabhupada had a small deity of Krishna. So, and then Prabhupada told in front of all the big people, Prabhupada said, do you know Saraswati, who is he? Radha Krishna. And Prabhupada said, see, this small children, they know who is Radha Krishna. And indirectly Prabhupada told them, they got a lot of inspiration by seeing a girl, basically chants Krishna's name. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying that the childlike saintly personalities entered all the 6 doors of the palace, and that is a child's nature. A child can enter any place and no one can check him. And therefore he says, a child is generally welcome in his attempts to go any places. Shri Radha, Gopinath, Gaurnitya Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki. Now, these 4 Kumaras, they were not actually stopped by anyone before this. No one stopped them before this. They kind of, they crossed all the 6 doors. Now, in 7 walls, 7 doors of Vaikuntha, yesterday we were discussing that. Somewhere in this kind of Prabhupada wrote, or maybe lecture of this, some of this verse, Prabhupada says, this, someone asked the same question to Prabhupada, I was reading. So Prabhupada said the 7 walls, surround Vaikuntha planet with 7 gates. Prabhupada gave example is just like, a building, maybe located there, but you have to pass through 7 gates. And he says sometimes, some BIPs, they have 7 security layers. Some big offices, they have bank and other things, 7 security layers. And then, he says, but each, between each layer there are gardens, houses, everything is there in between. And the question was, yesterday we were discussing that, the Jai Vijay stopped them in front of 7th gate, and what about the other 6 gates? But Prabhupada said here, Prabhupada made this very clearly. Prabhupada says that the childlike saintly personalities entered all the 6 doors of the palace and no one checked them. So that means someone was there, Prabhupada says, but no one stopped them, Prabhupada says, So no one stopped them because they found these children, what can they do? They are not demon, they can't do any harm to us. And they also appeared very innocent, they didn't have any cloth, they are Vaishnava, they are chanting the name of the Lord, So no one checked them, And they said, therefore, when they attempted to enter the 7th door, and they were forbidden by the doorman. So before that, no one stopped them, no one told them, you can't enter. So therefore, they freely entered all the 6 doors. And finally, when it came to the 7th door, they were stopped. But the seven doors, there are many, many references in the scriptures. Like in some ancient temples, they have this concept. In Sri Rangam, they have this concept of seven symbolic doors. You have to cross, and a certain, period of the year, they opens all the doors, and you can see Lord. You can have a darshan of the Lord. In Tirupati also, they say this. You have to cross 7 hills, and then you can have the darshan of Lord Venkateshwar. It's still there. After crossing 7 hills, only you can reach there. So, but also sometimes it says, it's kind of Kama, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Vatsarya. This symbol of 6 gates. And then we can able to cross the 7th gate, that is false ego. Sometimes it says, But Prabhupada actually, in one of the lecture, Prabhupada says, these 4 Kumaras, because they are, Brahmavadis, they were not, practicing, pure devotional service from the beginning, they are Brahmavadis. But they became devoted later on when they entered after this incident. They entered into Vaikuntha planet, and Lord Vishnu came. Lord Vishnu begged forgiveness on behalf of his doorkeepers Jai and Vijay. And that time, when Lord Vishnu appeared in front of these 4 Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras offered obeisances to Lord Vishnu when they saw for the first time face to face. And when they got the smell from the leaves, tulsi leaves, from the lotus feet of Vishnu, and at that time they became devotee, pure devotee. It says, Tasyara binda nayanasya padara binda kinjalka mishra tulasi makaranda vayu antargata cha vivarana chakasmatesham. So, kinjalka mishra tulasi makaranda vayu. When these 4 Kumaras, they offered obeisances to Lord Vishnu, and they, because of the vayu, wind, the smell of tulasi which is mixed with camphor, entered into the nostrils of 4 Kumaras, and they became pure devotees. This is very powerful, to smell the flower tulsi offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu. So if you have even material desire, if you have tendency of speculation, philosophical speculation, by the mercy of Lord's lotus feet, that will be eradicated. It's so powerful, So therefore, it says these 4 Kumaras, they became pure devotee later on, and they were stopped exactly. But Prabhupada said on that lecture that those who are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, practicing unalloyed devotional service, they will never be stopped. Even Jai Vijay is not going to stop them. So that is the potency of holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And it's so powerful, it will even penetrate Vaikuntha planet. So Jai Vijay will not get chance to stop them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this bhakti is kind of creeper. Bhakti lata, creeper. So it says, Shravana Kirtana Jale Karaya Sinchan. So we are chanting, we are hearing, we are glorifying Krishna, that is kind of pouring water to the tree. So we got the seed of Krishna consciousness, Guru Krishna Prasadepai, Bhakti lata bi. So we got that seed by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Guru, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But now we have to grow that seed. Grow. So if we keep on pouring water in the form of hearing and chanting, then it will grow. So more here, more chanting is kind of fertilizer. You are giving all kinds of compost, fertilizer, everything. More hearing, more chanting, it will grow very fast. But then problem may come. It may go very fast, but the cattle, animals, elephant, they may enter into that forest. They may eat that. Then whole endeavor of chanting, hearing, everything will be spoiled. So therefore you have to fence around the creeper, and that is called avoiding Vaishnava offense. So if we avoid Vaishnava offense, the devotees will be surrounding us, and if we commit Vaishnava offense, no one will be there with us. So we will be without any protection. Then any time, Yadi Vaishnava Aparad Uthe Hati Mata, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Then when, if we, continue Vaishnava offense, then mad elephant will enter into forest. And you may be cultivating that creeper for many, many years. 10, 15 years of chanting, 20 years of chanting. And one mad elephant comes, one moment, it's destroyed, it's finished. But okay, even after protecting that creeper from the mad elephant and cattle, so it's growing. So then the description comes and it will go so fast if you just give protection and keep on chanting. These two things. One is pouring water, one is protecting the creeper. And it will grow so fast. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave example, Upajiya Bade Lata. This creeper will, grow so fast, the Brahmand Bhedi Jai. It will penetrate this Brahmanda. And it will even penetrate Vaikuntha planet, Ayodhya, and Mathura, Dwaraka. It will, in Golok Vrindavan, it will reach there, it will touch the lotus feet of Krishna. And that is the complete journey of Bhakti Lata. So Prabhupada mentioned, those who are chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna Mahamantra in this age of Kali, following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so no one can stop them, because this Bhakti Lata will grow so fast, it will penetrate all the whole Brahmanda, all the planets, it will arrive in Golok Vrindavan. So these 4 Kumaras, then they cursed Jai and Vijay, as mentioned in this verse, that they had no idea of ours and theirs. When they saw, they are considering this is our place and you are outsider, you can't enter into our place. Therefore they cursed, Jai and Vijay. And it's the same, same context comes in 7th canto. So it's not exactly their fall down. We don't see that this is fall down. This is an incident. It is Krishna's arrangement. Yudhishthira Maharaj in 7th canto, he asked this question. He inquired from Narad Muni, Yudhishthira Maharaj. And he says, that, how come Shishupal, who was an enemy of Krishna, Shishupal, he had merged into the body of Krishna, although he was a great enemy of Krishna. So that's why in Bhagavatam only 2 sections comes. One section comes repeatedly, twice, in 2 cantos. That is 4 Kumaras section. So then, in 7th canto again, before this, Lord Narasimha the first time, so this comes. Yudhishthira Maharaj asked this question, how come Shishupal, he had merged into the body of Krishna, although he was an enemy? Then, Narad Muni then narrated the whole story, how they fell down from a spiritual world. This Jai and Vijay, they were cursed by 4 Kumaras, And when they cursed 4 Kumaras, now they gave them, 2 options. The 2 options that, that you can live in this, in the material world 3 lifetimes as the enemy of Vishnu, or 7 lifetimes as a devotee of Vishnu. So 7 lifetimes as a devotee of Vishnu, or 3 lifetimes as a enemy of Vishnu. So they say, 3 lifetimes is better, We should go back as early as possible. Who knows, we may take birth in material world for 7 lifetimes, but who may know, we may deviate also any time. So better, even after 3 birth, we can come back to Vishnu, because they are eternal servants of Krishna. So they wanted to join their service as soon as possible. So that's why they accepted the 3 lifetimes as an enemy of Vishnu. So, of course, and then they came in Satyayug, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, in Treta Yug, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, in Dapar Yug, Shishupal, Dantabakra, and in Kali Yug, Jagai and Madhai. But now, question may come, they accepted 3 lifetimes as an enemy, is not it? But we see 4 life. The Satyayug, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Treta, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, and Dapar, and Shishupal, Dantabakra. So these 3 lifetimes they considered as enemies of Krishna. But in this Kali Yuga, although they came as Jagai Madhai, but since they accepted the Krishna consciousness, they got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this life is not counted there. So the life we practice Krishna consciousness, that will never be counted. That's why 3 lives were counted. They are enemy, not 4th life. Because 4th life they become devotee. So once we become devotee, then there will be no count of previous sinful activities. Whatever we did, aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalan mukham krame naiva phaliyate vishnu bhakti ratatmanan. So the reaction of all kinds of sinful activities will be eradicated once we become Vishnu Bhakta. So that's why 3 lives are counted. And they became such a great devotee, this Jagai Madhai, after that, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while, he was delivering Jagai Madhai, they're so sinful, the Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur tried to convince them, and they kind of, they attacked Nityananda Prabhu, and then, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was delivering Jagai and Madhai, all the demigods, all the demigods, great people, the Gandharvas, everyone, on the sky, they were watching how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is delivering Jagai Madhai. That was a big incident, because Jagai Madhai, it says, not even Satyayug, as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, in Tretayug, Ravan Kumbhakarna, or in Dapar Yug, as Shishupal Dandavakra. The amount of sinful activities they committed is much less than what they did in Jagai Madhai form in Kali Yuga. So they are most sinful, Jagai and Madhai. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them. All the demigods, everyone came to see that incident. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was delivering Jagai and Madhai, Yamaraj, he also came to see this incident. So he has secretary Chitragupta. The Chitragupta, he is there with every living entity. He is with us also. He is watching. And Chitra means, the painting, the drawing, and Gupta means, secretly. So he is with us. We can't see him, but secretly he is writing down everything. Whatever we are doing, every single moment he is writing down. That's why his name is Chitragupta. So Yamaraj inquired from Chitragupta, can you check the diary and check the Jagai Madhai, the sinful activities they committed? So Chitragupta then opened his diary. Everyone's name is written alphabetically, A, B, C, D. So he saw Jagai and Madhai. And he was so shocked. This Chitragupta, he fell unconscious. He told the Yamaraj, my dear sir, even if we appoint 1,000 judges, and for 1,000 days, if they can, tell the punishment of Jagai Madhai, still that will not be finished. That much of sinful activities they committed. The 100 judges for 100 days they can't finish their judgment. And Jamaraj thought, we lost a big customer. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then he delivered. And he delivered Jagai Madhai. They got the pure love of Godhead in the form of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. They were delivered in all other 3 ages by Lord Vishnu, Barahadev, Nrsingadev, Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Krishna. But they didn't, get pure Krishna consciousness. They merged into the body of Krishna. But in this lifetime, what devotees got, they also got the same thing, Krishna consciousness. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave them Krishna consciousness. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving them Krishna consciousness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted all the sinful reactions. And everyone saw, there was a special incident happened. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivering them, then suddenly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bodily complexions became black from gold, color, golden form. Because he accepted the sinful reactions of Jagai and Madhai. And everyone was shocked. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, so from today onwards, whoever will commit Vaishnava offense, all the sinful reactions of Jagai and Madhai will go to their head. And immediately his bodily complexion came back into golden color. So anyway, so they became great devotees. That's why this fourth birth is not counted. And therefore, they, after receiving the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these both brothers, they are completely transformed. And they would chant, like Haridas Thakur was chanting 3 lakhs names, 300,000 names every single day. And these Jagai Madhai, they were chanting 200,000 names every single day. They become such a great devotee. And there is a ghat in Mayapur on the bank of Ganga. Is called Madhair Ghat, other side of the river, in Navadvip side. So Madhair Ghat, Madha used to sit down on that, on the bank of Ganga, and he would touch the dust from the feet of all the residents of Mayapur and Navadvip, and he would chant there 2 lakhs of names every single day. So that's how they got delivered finally. And not only that they went back to Vaikuntha, they went back to Golok Vrindavan because they got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhakta-vrinda ki, Gaur Pramanande, Hare Hare. Yes, Prabhu.
Why is there so much affinity to gold and jewelry throughout the material and spiritual world? And we see so many descriptions. I mean, everywhere, this palace is with so much. So why is there so much affection? I believe one of the Goswamis was actually hiding the Chintamani in the pile of dust.
Dust in Sanatana Goswami.
So why is there so much affection to, what is the reason?
Because it shows spiritual world is full of opulences. Even the Krishnas, the abode always are full of opulences. Krishna, we have in first canto description when Krishna, he left Hastinapur after Kurukshetra battle, he was entering to Dwaraka. And in Dwaraka, description of the city of Dwaraka, you can see made of palaces. The floor, you can see your face, it's so crystal clear, So, because why it says why there is affinity of all gold and valuable things? Because when we read all these descriptions, then we will similarly will develop the taste to serve Krishna with full opulences, especially. But if you see, Krishna, for him, he doesn't require all this thing. In Vrindavan, yesterday we were discussing, he is not wearing crown, not so much gold. It's just village boy, he is there, But Prabhupada says that we should worship especially the deity in Vaikuntha mode, not Vrindavan mode. Vrindavan mode, you don't have to offer anything. You give little sach, buttermilk to Krishna. And you don't need to decorate so much, But in Vaikuntha mode, everything is there. So in Vaikuntha, everything is full of opulences because we, in material world, our tendency is to enjoy opulences for our own sense gratification. So all these descriptions helps us. See, Krishna is full of opulence. We should give full opulences, full wealth, with everything we should serve Krishna. And that should not for ourselves. When you say the material world is spiritual world, material world, definitely we should not have affinity for all these things. For Krishna service we should do. That's why devotees, they are not so much attracted with all these things. Gold, jewelries, diamonds, everything, they are not attracted. Even in fact, Parikshit Maharaj, he gave 5th place to Kali, where yes, devotees also can give for emergency, Emergency, as Rupa Goswami says, for emergency. But otherwise, when we get something valuable, we give it to Krishna. It's for Krishna's service, So, that's why, so that by hearing all these opulences, we understand Krishna's supremacy. We can't compare anyone in this material or anyone's wealth, even the richest man's wealth, is insignificant in front of Krishna. That's why the 6 opulences of Krishna, that is, one is Aishwaryasha Yashasha Shriya. He is full of opulences. He had, he is most opulent personality. So we have to convince about that. He is most opulent personality because our tendency is to get attracted by the opulences of this material world. But when we will listen all this topic that Krishna is most opulent, if we go to Krishna, we will enjoy even more opulences with Krishna. That's why this affinity is there. Yes.
Throughout Bhagavatam, we actually get to hear Vaikuntha planets more than any other dhams, like Kailasa Dham, Ayodhya Dham, or even Navadvip Dham. Why is there so much its prominence is given to Vaikuntha planets than other planets?
Sometimes, Prabhu, when we say Vaikuntha planets, it also indicates, whole spiritual world. Like Prabhupada says, when we say back to Godhead. So when we say back to Godhead, also means Vaikuntha till Golok Vrindavan. And when you say Navadvip, Navadvip is a compartment of Golok Vrindavan. Golok Vrindavan, two sections, Golok Navadvip and Golok Vrindavan. Okay. So, but in generally in scriptures, basically the focus is on Vishnu Bhakti. Vishnu Bhakti. But Krishna Bhakti is even higher than that. Like, when you offer, even Tulsi Prana, Vishnu Bhakti Praday Devi. We don't say Krishna Bhakti. Some devotees say Krishna Bhakti. But in scripture, most of the highlight is Vishnu Bhakti. Like we call Vaishnava. But if you say in details, we are not Vaishnava, we are Karshneya. Karshneya means, devotees of Krishna. Just like Shaiva, devotees of Shiva. Shakta, devotees of Devi, Durga. So similarly, we are devotees of Krishna, we are called Karshneya. But because Vaishnava is quite, because there is not so much difference between Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, all these things, Vaikuntha, everything. But when we discuss within devotee community, then it comes. For outsiders and for public, it's same because Vaikuntha planets, material world and spiritual world. But when it comes to devotees, the mature devotees discussion, then we distinguish between. Even in spiritual world also there are certain. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told many devotees, he said, don't worship Lakshmi Narayan, worship Radha Krishna only. He even told, don't worship Ram, Lakshman, Sita, worship only Radha Krishna. He told Murari Gupta, he told Anupam, brother of Sanatan Rup Goswami, he told Bankat Bhatta, he told South Indian Brahman, many people he said, only Radha Krishna. He told. Because that is highest. That is highest. But they are same personalities. Yesterday we were discussing, in the office or at home. There is no, they are same personality. But the difference of rasas are there. That is the only difference. That's why Vaikuntha is highlighted. Because not everyone will understand the concept of Golok Vrindavan, because that is predominantly love is there, and Golok Navadvip is even higher. That Mahaprabhu Sankirtan is eternally going on there. So that is kind of mature devotees. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't discuss with common people, but he discussed Murari Gupta, his eternal associate. He discussed with Bankat Bhatta, he stayed at his place for 4 months. He discussed with Anupam, Rup Sanatan's brother. They are kind of his, kind of eternal, they are close associates. So he discussed all this with, all these people, or even Ramananda Rai, the Dasa Prem, Sakha Prem, In even Golok Vrindavan also, in his spiritual also, he said topmost is Radharani's love, So, that's why Vaikuntha is, most of the time, is highlighted. And also, when we say Vaikuntha, many times Vaikuntha does not mean only that Vaikuntha step, but also Ayodhya, Mathura, Dwaraka, and Golok Vrindavan also. Vaikuntha means higher, there is no kuntha, no anxiety. So if you take the literal word, then Vaikuntha means, this spiritual world, because there is no anxiety there. Okay?
Just one more thing, it's very interesting what you mentioned. Jai Vijay chose 3 lifetimes as demons rather than 7 lifetimes as devotees. It's interesting that in every day in Sikshashtakam, we actually pray life after life. We want to become devotees, not like demons, right? That's very interesting.
We say, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, Bhavata Bhakti Rahito Kitai. Because, they chose because, Lord also wanted to enjoy the beer ras. They wanted to have fight with someone. And then, also they wanted to go back to their original position. That's why they chose, 3 lifetimes. Because that's what, they knew that's what Lord wanted. So they are, you see, if they would choose the 7 lifetimes as a devotee, that will be kind of, they, as, an associate of Supreme Lord, they felt it will be kind of, for our, they will be selfish. For our own benefit, we want 7 lifetimes devotee. But 3 lifetimes enemy is Krishna's will. Because Krishna wants some enemies, So that is their higher position, They thought of Krishna's pleasure rather than their own pleasure. Just like Bhishmadev. He could have been on the side of Pandavas, but he became the enemy of Pandavas because Krishna wanted. And he was very happy with that, He accepted, defeat from Arjuna, who was, nothing in front of him, ant and elephant. But because Krishna wanted that. So that's why he became Krishna's enemy. So therefore he says, even if enemy life, no matter, Kita janama ho yathatvadas. No matter I am born as a enemy or as a friend of Krishna or even as an insect, I am ready, my dear Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, I don't have problem, Bahir mukho brahma janmenayas. I don't have desire to born as a multi-headed Brahma. I am ready to accept, born as your enemy or even as an insect. Provided I always get your association. Okay, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you had something?
I heard that before the four Kumars they smoked the tulsi, they came to their Brahmavadis. So
Right.
I was just wanting to know what is the difference between Brahmavadi and Mayavadi?
When we say impersonalist, impersonalist has two categories, Brahmavadis and Mayavadis. So if I am not wrong, the Brahmavadis and Mayavadi different is Mayavadis, they don't believe in the form of Lord. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Mayavadi bhashya sunile hoy sarvanash. Mayavadi Krishna aparadi. They don't believe that Krishna has a form. That's called Maya. Everything Krishna doesn't have any form. And they call Aham Brahmasmi. That we all are Brahma, we all are Lord. So Lord expanded into the heart of living entities, and his original source is destroyed. Now everyone is Lord. That is Mayavadi. Means they don't believe there is form. Krishna doesn't have any nirvishesh, like nirvishesha sunyavad. Now this is Mayavadi. The Brahmavadi is, they believe the Supreme Lord has form, but that form is made of Maya, this material form. And Mayavadi, they don't believe that there is a form. You got this difference? They believe Lord has form, but that form is material. But like we devotees, Vaishnava, the Lord has form, and that is not material, that is a spiritual form, Satchid Ananda Vigraha. So Brahmavadis, they are confused about Satchid Ananda Vigraha of Lord. Okay. Hare Krishna. Yes.
So you were mentioning about hearing and chanting. So when we do hearing and chanting, sometimes what happens is chanting goes nice, hearing also goes nice. At that time, false pride, false ego kind of comes up with that. So how do you prevent such?
That is, says, the weeds in the garden. Mahaprabhu compared that also. So if you are growing, cultivating a creeper, and there are weeds around the creeper, and no matter how much water you put, compost, fertilizer, the weeds will take all the energy. So, now your question is how to?
How can we prevent ourselves from that kind of weeds?
Yeah. That kind of weeds, how does farmers do? Time to time they clear it out, Weeds, they don't allow the weeds to grow up, isn't it? Weeds will come, the tendency weeds will keep on coming. But once the creeper grows very high level, very up, then weeds can't do any problem, any harm, isn't it? Then as long as the tree creepers are small, so weeds can take energy from that. But as long as the tree creepers is grown up, then no weeds can do any harm. So we have to time, we have to think ourselves, we have to get out of those weeds, we have to clear out all those weeds. Now for clearing weeds, what the farmers do? They manually do, they put some type chemical and a special treatment they do. So we have to do all these things. So we have to, if we can't clear out by ourselves, We have to take shelter and of the devotees, those who are expert, those who are free from false pride and all these things, ego. So they can help us to get rid of these weeds, isn't it? And sometime even if that doesn't work, we need powerful, chemical. So you have to associate with more powerful devotees, advanced devotees, then they will help us to get out of these weeds. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande, Hare Krishna.